Hello, I'm Chris McIntosh. I help teach the capstone courses. Today we're going to talk about how understanding the SQUIRE 2.0 rhetorical structure can help you write a better paper. The SQUIRE 2.0 guidelines were created to help improve reporting about healthcare quality improvement projects. They emphasize proper project planning, good reporting about project context, and evaluating project effectiveness. The SQUIRE 2.0 creators outlined 18 numbered sections arranged into 6 main divisions. It may be difficult for first-time writers to understand how the SQUIRE 2.0 sections relate to each other. Understanding how the sections relate to each other and keeping those relationships in mind as you write and revise your paper will help you craft a more cohesive report. Rhetorical Structure Theory, or RST, is a descriptive theory of text organization focusing on the relationship between different parts of a text. It is particularly useful for analyzing the hierarchy of relationships between language elements such as clauses and sentences. That can also extend to paragraphs and sections to enhance text coherence. RST also emphasizes the functional basis of hierarchy and the communicative role of text structure. This theory is significant in that it provides a method for characterizing the structure of natural texts, contributing to the understanding of text organization and coherence. I'm going to read this quote. Let us begin with a fact. Discourse has structure. Whenever we read something closely, with even a bit of sensitivity, text structure leaps off the page at us. We begin to see elaboration, explanations, parallelisms, contrasts, temporal sequencing, and so on. These relations bind contiguous segments of text into a global structure for the text as a whole. This is not how a text analyzed using rhetorical structure theory. I'm going to start over. This is not how a text using rhetorical structure theory is usually analyzed, but I borrow from ideas from RST to help make the structures of the SQUIRE 2.0 guidelines more apparent. Seeing a diagram of the relationships between sections may make them easier to see as you write. I won't get into specific section details in this presentation. You will focus on the specifics of each section in subsequent videos. I'll describe overall trends and patterns of how the paper sections relate to each other in this video. I will address SQUIRE 2.0 sections as they are numbered in the guideline. The title and abstract are based on the contents of the rest of the paper. They will be written last. It's okay to create a working title, but be prepared to revise it as the project planning and paper writing unfold. Notice that several arrows point to this section. This indicates that the meaning in other sections of the paper depend on the meaning conveyed in this section. The problem description section sets the stage for the rest of the paper. It all starts here by describing the local problem that needs to be solved. Prompts in the paper template will help you write a compelling and thorough description of the local problem you're trying to solve with your project. Notice the arrow that points from the available knowledge section to the problem description section. The available knowledge section shifts focus from the local problem to related information and trends that may be published in scholarly literature. The elements addressed in the available knowledge section should have some kind of connection to what was described about the local problem in the problem description section. We'll discuss more about the rationale section in other videos. We won't discuss it here. Notice the arrows pointing to the specific game section and from the specific game section to the problem description section. The specific game section is where you describe what you would like the solution to your problem to look like and a very general description of how you intend to reach that solution. The main objectives you'll be instructed to include in the specific game section are represented by yellow circles in this diagram. The number of objectives will depend on the needs of the project. I use 3 here for illustration purposes. Aspects of the objectives you describe in this section will be addressed in subsequent sections of the paper. You'll notice there is a fourth objective shaped like a star with a dotted outline. That is intended to represent an optional evaluation objective. Later in the paper, you'll need to describe how you intend to assess the effectiveness of your project. In many projects, the evaluation of effectiveness can be performed for each objective individually. That evaluation is represented by a small blue star next to each of the main objectives. If there is some aspect of evaluating your project that wouldn't be adequately covered by evaluating each objective separately, you may opt to create a separate evaluation objective. Some projects may have separate evaluation objectives and some may not. Notice the problem description section and the specific game sections are colored green. They represent very pivotal sections of your paper. The problem description section describes the problem you need to solve. The specific game section describes your intended solution and main steps to achieve that solution. The rest of the paper hinges on these two sections. Notice the yellow objective circles in the interventions, study of the interventions, and analysis sections. Depending on the nature of each objective, you may be writing material related to each objective in those sections. Some objectives, such as creating a specific document needed as part of a project, may not require extensive evaluation of success. So the study of the interventions and the analysis sections may not need to discuss those types of objectives. Some projects may use an interview guide, survey, or standardized questionnaire as a way to evaluate the effectiveness of certain parts of a project. Those are represented as green diamonds in this diagram. Not every objective may require such a tool for evaluation, so content covered about these tools will need to be tailored to the needs of the project. The SQUIRE 2.0 guidelines ask writers to evaluate the quality of the tools used for those purposes in the measures section. The SQUIRE 2.0 guidelines don't specifically address standardized tools used as part of the intervention, such as anxiety, depression, or pain assessment tools. If standardized tools are used as part of an intervention, then the quality of the tools should probably be discussed in the intervention section of the paper. As you're writing the different sections of the methods, be sure to check there is a logical progression regarding each of your main objectives from section to section. Does what you describe in the intervention section of the paper about an objective connect logically with what you write in the study of the intervention section and then the analysis section for the same objective? The results section is another pivotal section of the paper. I've colored it orange in this diagram. Notice the arrows from the discussion section pointing to the results, and notice the arrows from the results pointing to the sections in the methods. You will most likely be reporting the outcomes for each of your objectives in the results section. So you see the yellow objective circles and optional yellow star evaluation objective included in the results section. The problem description section describes your problem. The specific game section describes what you intend to do about the problem. The results section describes how your project turned out. The material covered in the sections of the discussion relies on the results and other sections earlier in the paper. You'll review specifics in other videos. You want to ensure logical progression from what you said earlier in the paper to what you state in the discussion sections. The only part that is based on what is in the discussion section is the abstract. The conclusion section is a bit different than the other sections of the paper. It looks mostly outside the project and conjectures how this project may be applicable in other settings and circumstances and other work that may need to be undertaken to extend this project. We don't need to discuss funding for these projects since most of them are unfunded. Create a cohesive paper by checking the logical flow from one section of the paper to the next. Check that material related to each objective is adequately addressed in relevant sections. Checking how these sections relate to each other will help you write the best paper possible. Understanding how the sections relate to each other and keeping those relationships in mind as you write and revise your paper will help you craft a more cohesive report. Here are the references.